Okay, so I just finished seeing, you know, Hearts of America, which is one of Uwe Boll's very few non-video game related movies. This is essentially like his take on Columbine. Now, I'll be honest, it has your stereotypical, cliques are formed in it, but the fact that the movie, which is around, 85 minutes or so, spends probably about 70 of those minutes actually developing the individuals and their, I'll say rationales for what is they're planning on doing. You've got the kids who are constantly picked on. You've got the outsider girl who essentially is kind of in love with like a head jock. The head jock essentially kind of just abuses her. He kind of like fakes a relationship with her while he's dating somebody else just for sex. She actually thinks it's something more, and for him, no. He would just call her up just for sex and then ditch her in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you really don't feel remorse for any of the people they actually have anger against, which I know is actually the point of it. There's one scene where essentially like the stoner group is literally whooping the crap out of these two guys. They throw a rock at one of the kid's legs and like he crumples. They're like, "Are you gonna cry? You gonna cry?" Rubbing his face in the dirt. And then while they're holding together like a headlock, like, "You like watching the boyfriend get beat up?" I mean, there's a certain level of brutality that's done on the people who essentially end up going through the long drawn out phase of we're gonna get revenge on these people. And I hate saying that's done well, but you really don't feel sympathy towards a few people. There's one guy who, even though he perpetrates a lot of the beatings and all that, when he thinks about it, he kind of has that, "That's messed up, I shouldn't do that." He has that actual remorseful look in his eyes. So you kind of feel some sympathy for a few people. And other people they almost fell in that wrong place, wrong time. It's almost kind of like, your life is better than me, I hate you for it. But it doesn't glamorize it at all. It's done very well. It's actually a pretty well acted drama. The students, for having cliched roles, perform them fairly well. There are some scenes that do come off, of course, like the whole, "Yeah, I've been cheating on you for, I don't know, most of our relationship by now. Why are you telling me all these things?" This is, part of what makes me more of a bad guy and give sympathy towards you. Or, as the stoners are meeting with most high schools always had that, what we refer to as a stoner prophet. He was that one who had these phenomenal amounts of truth, even though he graduated, but he was still hanging out at the high school because he had some job. Essentially, he's this person who helps supply drugs. So he ends up becoming like your school drug dealer. But he's either a dropout or someone who actually graduated like 2 or 3 years ago. And everyone thinks he's cool, but no one wants to realize when you graduate high school, you still want to hang around high school? Because there's nothing else you can do? Now, when they actually get down to, the actual killing portion, it is done as unglamorous as possible. You see somebody going to the bathroom, there's a speech, and the kid holding the gun, he's not just holding it he's holding the gun, he's shaking the hole, you see the gun wavering everywhere. So it's intense. It's really intense. It's intense, it's done well. Subject matter, it does take a certain amount of chutzpah, or a certain amount of balls to actually, do a movie about school shootings. And do it in a way that is very unapologetic. You feel remorse for a few people, but you don't really identify with the killers that much. They're designed to be. This is what happens when someone gets pushed. Really, really hard, really, really far. And normally their parents are kind of there. Clint Howard is the dad of one of the characters, and he's essentially that. You're a screw up. Your whole life you've been a screw up. What do you do about college? I'm thinking about college today. I just want to get through today. You know what? You're getting a job. You're gonna work, and you're gonna, So essentially, he has a little section where the kid's talking about, his dad laughs when he comes home with cuts on his face. He just got beat up by like 4 or 5 guys. Go home, and your dad's kind of like, wuss. Yeah. And then the only empathy you get is from the other people who are essentially beat on and ridiculed, and there's a teacher where towards the end he kind of does this, I was kind of rough on you guys. I'm sorry. He's like I realize I unfairly criticized your work, that, but I hope to do it to make you better at your writing. I mean, everyone had a teacher that was kind of rough on them. But when they show the rationale behind doing the killings, it's always on black and white. So, the girl is reading the story, essentially, that's based towards, the jock that she's in love with, who just kind of treats her like dirt. And what she remembers is the teacher laughing at her. So this somewhat heartfelt note that she's trying to tell it to somebody, and I really do care about you. He could care less. The teacher ridicules her for it. That's sad. Does it vindicate and justify going to his school and killing him? No, nothing actually justifies or vindicates that. But, from a dramatic standpoint, it's done very well. It's also done super unapologetically. I mean, it's kind of like, here's their motive behind it. Here's what they did. Can you kind of understand why it happened? You might not be able to justify the actual actions, but do you get an idea of why it happened? I never thought a Uwe Boll movie actually made me kind of think and go, you know what? It's actually, it's fairly well thought provoking. Not like Inception or Pan's Labyrinth, but it's interesting. It's actually a decent drama. And it's well acted for the characters being cliches. Never thought I ever said about Uwe Boll movie that, the characters actually performed well. The dialogue in some spots is really stock. That's because most people have high school experience. Regardless of the size of your high school, those certain groups always existed. So, Hearts of America. If you can find it, it's actually really worth watching.